It may be Halloween week, but don't be scared because Chris Meaney and I have got you covered for all your DFS needs, and the PreSnap podcast starts right now.
You're listening to the PreSnap podcast, brought to you by LineStar, the top-rated DFS tool set and #1 companion for DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Go LineStar Premium now at LineStarApp.com. Now, here are your hosts, fantasy football experts Joe Pisapia and Chris Meaney.
Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to the PreSnap right here on the LineStar app. It's me, and it's Chris Meaney, and it's the spooky Halloween edition. Ooh, it's spooky. And ooh, oh, so many lineups are going to die this weekend. Terrible deaths, Chris. It's going to be super spooky.
I like it. I'm ready.
Wow, the delayed response. Well done. I think that's good. And meanwhile, this guy over here, I say, hey, what time you want to go today? He's like, oh, I'm all screwed up with my time. And I'm like, what do you mean your time? He's like, I'm in Vegas. And I was like, well, isn't it nice to be Chris Meaney? Just pick up and fly to Las Vegas for the afternoon. My goodness. Wow.
Well, when you have the
LineStar money.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When you have the LineStar app, you got all the perks and you're able to have some success in DFS. Yeah, no, it was kind of spur of the moment. We're big hockey fans, so we're going to take in the Golden Knights and the Canadians. We're Montreal fans, so we're going to check out that atmosphere. We're going to dress up, take part. The girls are going to do the Harley Quinn, and I'm going to do the Joker.
You would be a good Joker. I think you pull that off. That's good. Which I assume you're going for now Joker, or are you going for like
I have Joker? Yeah, I have the Heath Ledger Joker costume. Like I have the outfit. So yeah, I'm probably roll with that.
That's the Joker. Okay. I'm not taking anything away from Joaquin. It's great. It's awesome.
Right.
But there's Heath Ledger and even Jack Nicholson. Great Joker. So many great Jokers.
Great Joker. Yeah.
Great Joker. But it's Heath Ledger and everybody else. Okay. I'm going to be dressed as Nick Fury today. Everybody here knows I have the bald head, so this was an easy costume. I just grew the goatee out, which because I'm Italian only took like a day or two. And I got the eye patch and a leather trench coat, and I look badass. And I was like, give me some effing candy. And that's because my oldest daughter is dressing as Captain Marvel. So she said, will you be Nick Fury? And I said, of course I will, my dear. Nice. Anything for you because I'm a sucker for my kids. So speaking of suckers, I was so close, dude. I had 6 of the 9 players in the $1 million lineup this week.
Wow.
And yeah, it was very close. And the reason why I was so close to that, and I did obviously cash. It was obviously a pretty good week, obviously, with that lineup that I had there. But I want to just point out to everybody, it's because of the tools here at the LineStar app. So we're getting very, very close here. And I promise you, if I hit that $1 million, I will still come and do this show forever as long as they'll have me, because I believe in what we're doing here, and I believe in the show, and I believe in the LineStar app. And if you haven't gotten to it yet, make sure you get over there, subscribe to that LineStar app, and I'm telling you, upgrade to that premium package so you can see all the tools and use everything on there. It is so incredible. All the cornerback matchups, the optimizer. It's so much more user-friendly than every other DFS site out there. And there's a ton of them. Oh my God, there's so many of them. And I know you're like, oh, everybody says we're going to win. Look, I'm telling you right now, just stick with us, man. We're calling touchdowns like crazy. You go with the show, you go with the app, and you're good to go. And look, it's another wacky weekend of football here. You got another London game, so we got to throw that one out the window. And you got 6 games on the 1 o'clock. So let's start with that. Let's start with the Bears and Eagles. So just when David Montgomery had a bunch of touches, now all of a sudden I don't want to even come anywhere near him because of this Eagles front. So I'm out there. The only thing I really like, and this is not because I like Trubisky or have any faith whatsoever, but it is actually something you accidentally texted me just now. That you didn't mean to, but I was already on it, so I don't even know if that was who that was meant for, but I know it wasn't meant for your girlfriend, but Allen Robinson, I'm all in on Allen Robinson. That Eagles secondary's trash. Allen Robinson been so steady, whether it's cash or even tournaments. I think he's a great play in this game today.
Yeah, I was getting my emails mixed up and I went to copy and paste a different email, and I copy and paste some Allen Robinson stats. So we need to play him if you're on him and I'm on him. Maybe it's meant to be here. He has been pretty steady, as bad as Trubisky has been this season. I mean, at least 7 targets and 4 grabs in every single game. So there's a solid floor there. 15 catches in his last 2 contests and at least 5 grabs in 5 straight. And even on top of that, Joe, just 32 targets in his last 3 games. So you're right. Montgomery, it was nice to see last week the most rushing yards of any running back. Going forward, maybe that's something that we'll keep an eye on, and we'll talk about him as a play. But I don't think this is the week against that Eagles defense. They've been pretty solid against the run, and you've been able to pass on them all year. So I do really like Allen Robinson, and I actually like this Eagles offense on the other side only if Deshaun Jackson returns. If Deshaun Jackson does return, that's going to be great news for Carson Wentz. It's going to be good news for Zach Ertz. I was at that game in Buffalo last week, and, I've seen it on TV, and I saw it live. They are just double-teaming Zach Ertz, and you've seen Dallas Goedert get a couple catches. Exactly.
That's the thing.
So,
you don't have Deshaun Jackson stretching the field, and I was like, well, maybe they'll get somebody, but I think them just getting Deshaun Jackson back on the field makes a huge impact on what they can do offensively for the second half of the season.
Yeah, and that's exactly why they didn't get a guy like Allen Robinson or whoever was rumored that they would get. But yeah, it's been one game. Carson Wentz has had Deshaun Jackson for one game. 9 targets, 8 grabs, 154 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you give him that deep threat. It takes the attention away from guys like Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, who I'm not really interested in. It's fun to do the narrative here with the revenge game with Howard and Jeffrey going up against the Bears. But I do like Ertz. I do like Jackson and Wentz in tournaments.
Yeah, and by the way, Allen Robinson, 72 on FanDuel, 68 on DK. Very good price. You get what you pay for. I like that a lot. I always like getting what I paid for. That's a nice thing to be able to do once in a while in life. Far too often we get let down. Anything else in this game, I think I stay away from. Now, the next one is the Steelers and the Colts. And this one, again, I'm going to just cherry pick. And I'm going to cherry pick 2 things, and they both happen to be on the Steelers. The first thing I'm going to cherry pick is Jalen Samuels. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are going to be on this, so I'm not breaking any ground here, but especially in the full point PPR as a flex, or even for that matter on FanDuel as a flex, I really like the cost here. I like the play. I feel like even no matter what Connor's status is or isn't, it doesn't matter, because when last we left Jalen Samuels, he was a real part of this offense. And I think they've realized that's going to be the way they win football games. And that's the way they're going to limit Mason Rudolph's mistakes. So going forward, Samuels to me is a really good bet. And on top of that, I think with Juju getting a lot of attention, I was very impressed with Deontay Johnson in the Dolphins game. He made some big catches. He had some big moments. I thought that this was a guy, and in season long, I would be starting to, in season long keeper dynasty formats, I would be buying him on the cheap for next year right now, because I feel like when Roethlisberger comes back, he's going to be that second guy, and he's just $5K on FanDuel. He's $4,500 over on DraftKings, and Samuels, conversely, is just $4K over on DraftKings, and on FanDuel, he's $5K. So that's where I'm looking for. Everything else in this game, I'm passing on. How about you?
Yeah, it's a great call by you. And we've talked about this before. It's okay if it's going to be chalk. You take that quote unquote free square, because I don't know if Connor's going to play, and we know Snell is already week to week. So you're right. He was involved in the passing game. He's going to be involved whether Connor plays or not. And it's a weird slate. With the London game that you mentioned, we got the Hopkins off the slate, and there's the Rams are on a bye, the Saints are on a bye, the Falcons. So there's some big time players there that are on bye. So there's not a lot of value to be had. And Samuels is certainly one of those guys. And it was interesting listening to Mason Rudolph talk about Johnson after the game. He had said that Juju was covered on that one play. I think it was 3rd and 20 when he found Johnson for the touchdown. And he said, listen, Juju was covered, double teamed, and he's been double teamed a lot. And it's kind of, opened up things for Deontay Johnson. So I think it's an interesting play. I do have some interest, I guess, from a cash standpoint with Marlon Mack. Not a ton, but if you are just a cash game player and you're just looking for some safety, I mean, he's got the 4th most carries per game. The offense does kind of run through him. Doesn't really catch a whole lot of balls out of the backfield, but no one's there to steal his goal line work. But it's just maybe a little cash game I play. I don't really love him in tournaments.
Yeah, I would agree with all of those sentiments to be true. And I think in the early slate too, I think Samuels is a real must play. He's a great lineup builder, but you go to the top of the board for anything else you want. Now, this next one is a little trappy. Okay. The Jets and Dolphins. Now, there's a narrative out there right now where it's like, oh, let's get everybody get your Sam Darnold. I see him ranked as like the 13th or 12th overall quarterback this week. I can't get there, man. I know it's the Dolphins. I know what I saw the last 2 weeks, and granted those were better defense. But Miami's come out with a good game plan the last couple of weeks in the first half. Of course, they give up the goose. But Adam Gase can't make adjustments the way Mike Tomlin makes adjustments. And I have real concern with the Jets in this one. I am not touching this game from a DFS standpoint with a 10-foot pole. And if you ask me from a betting standpoint, well, you'll have to listen to tomorrow's show with Mike Randall and make sure you're subscribing to the pre-snap and giving us a 5-star review too, because that way you know when that one drops, and that'll drop sometime tomorrow. But if you subscribe right now, you'll know when that show drops. So tell me, are you like me where you're just terrified of this game altogether?
I am terrified, but I am probably going to fall into the trap. I'm not really interested in Sam Darnold. I mean, he's thrown 7 picks in his last 2 games. One would assume, I mean, you can't trust Adam Gase, that they would hand it off to Lev Bell. I mean, would he have 8 carries last week? There's really no excuse for it. But the Jets are playing at a slow pace. Over on DraftKings, they have priced Lev Bell like he is going to ball out, like he's going to touch the ball 20 times. He's $7,700. He's the 3rd highest priced running back over on DraftKings. And over on FanDuel, you're getting a bit of a value. There's a few guys that are priced ahead of him. So I think if you're a FanDuel player, I could get behind Bell. I don't mind Robbie Anderson just because the targets have been there. 22 in his 3 games with Sam Darnold. No Xavier Howard. He's out. So Miami's without their best corner, and they already ranked 32nd against the pass, according to Football Outsiders. But you know who I am kind of interested on the other side of this game? And LineStar agrees with me. The biggest value on the board is Ryan Fitzpatrick at $4,800. I mean, he's not afraid to throw the football. We've seen not so much Preston Williams, but we've seen Devontae Parker kind of show up here a little bit over the past couple games.
Well,
and I actually
had the ball around him a little bit.
Yeah,
I just wonder about the total. That's my only concern with Fitzpatrick.
But with Parker, I mean, I had to triple check because I mean, I've been on the Parker train for a couple years, and it's like finally, it's like no thanks, I'm not doing it. But I mean, 18 targets, 11 catches, 114 yards in his last 2 games, at least 50 yards in 5 games this season, 3 TDs in his last 4. I kind of like him and Fitzpatrick as a different ultra contrarian.
If you're playing
tournament.
the 1:00 slate, I support this 100% in tournaments. I support Fitzpatrick 1:00 slate, single entry kind of thing, or even multi-entry, whatever. That's where I can get behind this play. I think that fits that criteria because I'm just a little worried when you get into the 4:00 games with some of the quarterbacks on that slate. With Aaron Rodgers, with Matt Stafford, if this dog hunts. But if you're isolating, because when you isolate, the only big quarterback out there is Kirk Cousins.
Right.
That's it. That is the only guy on the 1:00 slate. No Mahomes. I mean, Josh Allen, okay. You want to, I mean,
there's
okay.
no upside there. Yeah, there's just no upside with Allen.
It's it. It's Wentz, it's Brissett. So I'm all for going to Ryan Fitzpatrick in the 1:00 only. I think it's a great play. It makes a ton of sense. So I'm all for that one. So like everything here in the show, we always try to pinpoint it. So many shows out there are going to give you the, okay, let's talk about the quarterbacks. This guy's this price, that guy's that price. And that's just like useless. This is information you can use. You're playing 1:00 slate. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a tournament quarterback. Boom, boom. End of story. All right.
And
anything else here from this Jets-Dolphins game you want to put a bear trap on your leg on? No?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it could really go the wrong way. Would anybody be shocked if it was a 9-3 game? Like, nobody should be. But yeah, I will go down that way.
I can't wait to see what this game ends up being in a weird, perverse kind of way. Like, trick or treat, baby. By the way, how do you feel? Let's talk about more tournament quarterbacks. How do you feel about Matt Moore at home against the Vikings here at 1:00 in our next game?
Yeah, see, I mean, I was impressed with Matt Moore. I thought he did a decent job, but I think there's slightly more upside in a guy like Fitzpatrick, and they're at the exact same price and a decent matchups for Fitzpatrick as opposed to Moore. So I won't go that way, but I was impressed. Travis Kelce found the end zone. He only his 2nd touchdown. He was one of his better games really of the season. It only takes 1 for Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, all of that. It's all in play, but I honestly, if I had to choose between the 2, I would lean Fitzpatrick.
All right, that's fair enough. And I'll tell you what, even more, the more I'm doing this, I'm playing around with the optimizer with Fitzpatrick in the 1:00 slate. You can
do a lot of things.
You do Fitzpatrick, and then again, Redskins defense at $1,800 on DK.
Yep.
You do that, you can get Cook, McCaffrey, Allen Robinson, Jalen Samuel, make it a lot work here. You really can. You could do a lot going on here. So if you pick and choose your wide receiver matchups carefully, there's a lot to be had here. I'm kind of with you. I thought Matt Moore did a good job. I have zero faith in this running game, but there's one thing we learned in the NFL, and every time you think you know something, it seems to turn around the other way. So my guess is they're going to try to go back to some semblance of it in some fashion against the Vikings and try to keep this offense off the field, because if they don't, Dalvin Cook's going to run amok. I will be heavy into Dalvin Cook this week. Don't care what the price is. I want him. I'm more into Cook than any other piece on the Vikings. That's where I'm at. Where are you at?
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. A total lockstep with you. Absolutely. It's been the Dalvin Cook show, and you can run on Kansas City. It could be one of those games where, with no Mahomes and they're just running all over KC. It could be one of those games where Cousins only throws, a handful of times. We've seen that script before. Heck, we saw it last Thursday when they played Washington, and he really didn't have to do a whole lot to win that football game. So yeah, I'm with you. It's Dalvin Cook, and for whatever reason, if you fade him in one lineup, I would suggest maybe going. You could do a Diggs and Cousins lineup just to be ultra contrarian because Cook will
You
be
can do that.
chalky and it's okay. But yeah, I'm all in on Cook.
You're right. It's not a bad idea. You could do it with Thielen or with Diggs and Cousins and kind of go off Cook there. But the problem is, especially in the 1:00, man, it's not a lot of running backs.
It's a weird slate.
You can get, especially that London game at 9:30. I would say it's more like, you're gonna go with the Marlon Max and fade down a little bit. Okay,
Yeah,
or like you
Barkley
said,
and Zeke on Monday night too.
Yeah,
right?
you talk about Lev Bell. Yeah, I mean it's weird. And then next week we get to that major bye week, so that's going to be fascinating to see how that all shakes out. Titans at Panthers. Is it a week to pay up for Christian McCaffrey? Yes, it is. I think it absolutely is a week to pay up for Christian McCaffrey. We just talked about how there's kind of a lack of running backs. Now, look, you can fade. I would say this: the way the pricing is on both sites, from what I've gone back and forth, and I think LineStar App's kind of with me here to what I've seen. It's a better play on FanDuel to pay up. You can get a lot of better moving pieces. Some of the pricing on some of the other players is better. You could do that with. Whereas DK, it's a little harder. DK, I think we would fade down to some of the other running backs we're going to talk about in a second here.
Yeah, again, it's kind of the same thing with CMC. Is you try to find a way to get this guy into your lineups, and I agree with you on FanDuel. It's slightly easier, but I mean, last week against San Fran, everyone was a little afraid of that matchup. He still had 117 yards on the ground on 14 carries and caught 4 balls. So it's just there's a safe floor there with them, and with all of these backs, we mentioned Zeke and Barkley not playing. We're down to like Lev Bell being the third highest priced running back, and so many question marks with that Jets offense. So if you can find a way to get McCaffrey, and the way to do it really is what we've already talked about with Fitz and paying down for Washington defense or getting Parker in there.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Okay, now outside of that here, you are in a spot now where Kyle Allen is, kind of fading away here. And you've got the Titans coming in. And look, Tannehill's played okay. This is another guy, if you want to go a little bit like, lower quarterback, it's fine, especially in the 1:00 slate. You could do it. I wouldn't do it in the full tournament slate. I would not do that at all in the all day. But it was interesting to see him kind of spread the ball around. Tajay Sharp had a touchdown. A lot of other guys had touchdowns. It makes me nervous. I was buying in last week to Corey Davis off the previous week. That did not work out. So between Davis, Brown, Tajay Sharp, I don't know if I'm into throwing darts this week on those guys. I like the floor of some other guys better. Now, look, you could take a shot. It's fine. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying you better make sure you have a high floor of running back like McCaffrey or Cook if you're going to do it.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Yeah, I would imagine, 2 weeks ago we mentioned Davis. It worked out. Last week, a lot of people were on Davis. Didn't work out. I would imagine everyone just, what, screw Davis. It's Corey Davis. It's the old Corey Davis. I'm not going to go that way. So I think it's an interesting contrarian play. But if no Delaney Walker again, I'm 100% in on Jonnu Smith. He's been pretty good, and I like him. I think he's a good athlete. I think he's strong after the catch. I think he runs decent routes, and he's been pretty good in those last couple of games. And the one guy I guess if I could pick is obviously CMC, but on the Titans is Henry. When it was Mariota, Henry was just running into walls and stack boxes. But now with Tannehill spreading the offense out, the offense has looked a little bit better. And he's got 38 carries in his last 2 games. He's got 165 yards. I mean, he's got 15 carries in every single game. And Carolina ranks dead last in DVOA, according to Football Outsiders, rush DVOA. They're allowing 135 rushing yards per game. So it could be just both backs.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Jonnu Smith because he's in all my lineups this week. Spoiler alert. Yeah, nice. So that made me happy. Made me feel good about that selection. He's 38 over on DK. He's good value on FanDuel as well. Just last 2 games too. I mean, he's got 10 targets, 9 catches, 140 plus yards and a touchdown. So now
great.
He's been very good. And there's no, I feel like the Titans are a team that's kind of starting to just say to heck with the past,
Yes.
like
agreed.
It's old Mariota. Okay, done. Delaney Walker. We're tired waiting. I think everyone's just like, we're tired. The season is now. Let's get on it right now. And I feel like Jonnu Smith is kind of part of that whole thing with Tannehill. Like, let's just keep moving forward. Let's try to get out there and put our best foot forward. And in terms of return on investment at tight end, you mentioned how Ertz has been, an issue there. And Kelsey, obviously, without Mahomes, and Johnny Smith is sitting out there at 55 on FanDuel and at 38 on DK. It just makes a ton of sense, man. I think it's a great return. Take a shot. Tight end's the one spot I'm going to take a shot on. Now, the next one I'm going to take a shot again. I'm going back in. I'm going back in, Coach. I'm going back in for those Redskins defense again. Over on DK. DK only. Don't worry. But I want it. 1,800. Why not? 6 points.
We've been on this all year. We've been on this all year, Joe. Yeah, we've been doing this all year. We've talked about what it can do for your lineups. And with Washington, the defense, if you just look at the game log, it's not like they're putting up zeros. I mean, they can dial up some pressure. 6 against the Vikings, 8 against San Fran, 10 against Miami, whatever. But
it's not
5
like the
against
Bills
the Pats.
Are prolific offense either.
Right,
That's
and Josh Allen. What do we know about Josh Allen? This guy puts the ball on the ground. He almost has more picks than touchdowns. We like him from a safe cash standpoint because he runs around, but he still has issues turning the ball over. So I love that call. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm all in there. Let's just do it. I mean, come on, everybody, come with us. Let's
join us.
Worked out last time. It's going to work out this time again. I feel really good about it. And just that Bills, that Bills defense is really good. Bills offense is a work in progress. Now, maybe that changes this week and they give Singletary 15 carries and all of a sudden, oh my God, they become much more dynamic and can do a lot more things. And that opens things up for Allen, but we are not there yet. So until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. And even then, I'll take the Redskins there. I think it's a good spot. Now, all right, let's go to the 4:00 games because now we're getting somewhere. Bucks at Seahawks. Nice totals here. We got Russell Wilson getting to throw the ball. And it's funny because I went back and I looked so far this year. The better games Russell Wilson has had have been against better defenses, whereas like the worst the past defense, he seems to play down to the competition, and I don't know why. I'm not sure what that's about. But the one thing I do know is this is a week where I'm fading away from Chris Carson. Yeah. That Bucks defensive front has been very good. It's not a knock on Carson. It's just a matter of I don't think it's a good investment this particular week. We've been very pro Chris Carson for, I don't know, basically all season, week even one. Through the fumbles. Yeah, even through the fumbles. But I think this is a week where I'm out. So are you out too, or are you still going pro?
No, I'm with you. Dead on. I'm with you. This could be a game where he touches the ball. Wouldn't be shocked if he touched the ball 20 times again, but it could be 20 for 44. Maybe he finds the end zone, but he's priced too high now, for me to get involved. And yeah, it's a tough defense to run on. I mean, they faced McCaffrey twice and they've done a good job against him in terms of rushing yards. And Carson doesn't throw the ball, doesn't catch the ball too much. So yeah, it's Russell Wilson. It's Lockett. I know Lockett can be frustrating. It's DK Metcalf, who I'm kind of interested in as well. I mean, he's been that red zone target.
17 end zone targets this year.
I think he leads the league.
Yeah, leading the league in end zone targets. I'll tell you what. I'm with you on that one too. DK Metcalf, even though this might be chalky this week, it's a tournament play. It's not a cash play because he does not get enough general volume, I think, in cash where I don't think that's a good cash decision no matter what Tampa does or doesn't do on defense well. I think it's only a tournament play. That's just where I stand with that.
Yep, I would agree with you there.
Anything else here on the Bucs side? I mean, obviously Godwin and Evans have been very good. So I danced with Mike Evans last week, and that worked out pretty well too. Another monstrous week for him.
Yeah,
I caught a little piece talking about the corners there in that game, and I think it was on the RotoWire show, and some of the boys over at RotoWire. And I was listening. I was like, that they make a lot of sense there. I'm going to listen, and we could always get better. And I listened, and I started Mike Evans, and I took what they said, and I put him in my DFS lineup. And sure enough, there you go. Boom. Look at that.
Boom. Yeah. I mean, Winston is interesting because Godwin and Evans they're two top five. They're both inside the top 5 in terms of fantasy points among wide receivers, right? We know that the upside, they haven't had, it's usually one or the other. So nailing, one of them, it can get a little frustrating. But, I don't mind maybe a Jameis to Evans or Jameis Godwin just going ultra contrarian and going the other way. Like if the Seahawks are really going to have their way with the Bucs and score some points, they're probably going to have to throw the football to play catch up. We know that they don't have much of a run game. We know that they can't stop the pass. So Seattle's certainly going to score some points. But they're just priced. They're so expensive this week, especially on FanDuel. I mean, like I said earlier, you get the Rams off the board, all their wideouts. You got the Saints off the board. You have the Falcons off the board. So you look at FanDuel, Godwin 82, Evans 81. I mean, that's 1 and 2 in terms of pricing. It's hard to do. And you definitely can't get CMC and Cook in there if you're going to go that way. So I probably won't have a ton of exposure, but maybe 1 or 2 tournament lineups just to see if, that is like maybe a 50-point total game.
Yeah, well, it definitely has the ability to, but the weird part is that Seattle was they looked really strong a couple weeks ago, and in the last couple weeks, I've been unimpressed. Is that the best way to say it?
Same. Yeah.
Yeah,
They've been disappointing the past couple weeks.
I'm not gonna go crazy for this one. I think everyone's gonna go crazy for this one, and I'm concerned that it's not gonna live up to the hype a little bit. I just am. I'll do some pieces. Like I'm not against that. There's definitely, can't argue with Godwin, Evans, can't argue with DK in a tournament. I get all that, but this next one I like even more. The Lions against the Raiders. The Lions have no running game, 0. The Lions running game has become what the Patriots running game basically was, which was short passes, which means Danny Amendola. So let me take you kids through a little fun little story time here with Danny Amendola, because the last 2 games he has 19 targets and 16 catches for 200 yards. Okay, so can we all just understand that? He's $6K over on FanDuel, very cheap price there. On DK, he's cheap as well. I think he's 48 over on DK. So, I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer this week. I love Golladay too. Give me Golladay, give me Stafford, give me Amendola. I'm going to fade away from Marvin Jones. Give me those pieces against the Oakland Raiders secondary, which is trash. And they have 0 running game, so I don't even think it's going to matter. So that's where my hyper focus is this week in terms of DFS. It is all that Lions trio right there for me.
Yeah, I like Jones too. I like them all. I mean, even Danny Amendola, the past 2 games, you're right, have been great. I mean, he's got 16 catches and
what's the common
targets.
Denominator in those last 2 games? No Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, no carry on. And week 1, he showed up and he had 13 targets and 7 grabs and 104 yards as well. And then he's just been hurt. Like, he's been banged up. He's been in and out of the lineup.
That's Danny Amendola.
Yeah,
like, he's healthy right now. You play.
Sure.
This is why you never have him on your fantasy team.
Right.
You have him in DFS if he's playing. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he looks healthy. He's playing a lot of the snaps. You're dead on. They have absolutely no run game. I like Matthew Stafford a lot. Liked him last week. It worked out. The Raiders passed DVOA 28th. They've allowed the fifth most points at quarterbacks, 3rd most passing yards per game. So, I mean, absolutely. And on the other side as well, I mean, the Lions have allowed the most passing yards per game. So this really could be a shootout. There could be a lot of points scored here. Tyrell Williams has a touchdown in every game, and that's obviously not sustainable. I wouldn't go there in cash, but him and Waller are big parts of this offense. It's just 3. They have an identity there, and it seems to be Josh Jacobs or Waller or Tyrell. So I like this game a lot. I think there could be a lot of points scored.
Yeah, I'm with you. Tyrell Williams has a touchdown in all 5 games he's played.
Amazing.
Carr's played well the last 2 games too.
He has played well, yeah.
He really has. I think Carr is a good contrarian quarterback, or a little,
$5,500.
Yep. I think he's a real good. And the 4 o'clock slate is hot. 1 o'clock slate is kind of trash. 4 o'clock is hot. There's a lot I like here, and if I'm looking for the sneaky big game offensively, I think it's this one, because I think the Lions have some injuries here defensively, and I think the Oakland Raiders don't have enough personnel to keep up with what Stafford and the Lions are doing. And the Lions smell playoffs here. They know they're better than their record. And despite the tough schedule for the Raiders, and they have been a tough schedule, man. This is the first time they've been home in weeks.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good homecoming, I don't think, for them. Not with this game. So let's go to the next one here. And the next game on the 4 o'clock slate is the Green Bay Packers at the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be a home game for the Packers. Just telling you right now. There's going to be a ton of Packer fans there, ton of cheeseheads in the crowd. Give me naked Aaron Rodgers with clothes on, but I don't need any other pieces. And give me Aaron Jones. That's what I want. That's what I want in this game. I think that is probably the safest cash game situation you can get yourself into, especially if you're going to fade away from McCaffrey and you're going to fade away from Dalvin Cook. Aaron Jones against a team of the Chargers that gives up just a ton on the ground and a ton of rushing touchdowns to the guy who's got more rushing touchdowns than anybody. It's just sometimes things are easy, and I think this one is.
Yeah, not just rushing. I mean, he's got 3 receiving touchdowns in his last 3 games. You
can even dance with Jamal Williams a little too as a flex. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
but it's Aaron Jones, it's Aaron Rodgers, anyone named Aaron. That's basically it. That's what I got in this game.
The double A's, absolutely. And his price has only jumped up $100 after that game against the Chiefs last week, where he had 67 yards on the ground and 159 receiving, 8 targets and 7 grabs. I mean, this guy has been, he's been very, very impressive. And I'll admit, I mean, I was I was pretty much wrong on him, and it was mostly because of LaFleur and Williams is going to be involved, and Williams has been involved, but Aaron Jones has been extremely impressive. 28 catches in his last 5 games. I don't even care if, Devontae Adams comes back. I still think he's going to be involved. There's just been this connection with Jones and Rodgers, and 11 total touchdowns on the year, like you mentioned. Plus, the Chargers top 10 in terms of just rushing yards allowed, fantasy points allowed, rush CVOA. I mean, this is a pretty good spot for Aaron Jones. I'm pretty shocked, actually, to see him last week at $6,900 and only $7K this week. Maybe it was because it was the Monday night game. I'm not totally sure if the pricing was already out, but Jones is a value this week.
He's a great value on DK, especially compared to the top of that board.
Yes.
If you're going to play the 1 o'clock slate, I think it's Cook and McCaffrey. If you're going to play the 4 o'clock, I think, or the full slate, I think Aaron Jones becomes your number 1 guy. I feel like that's the pivot you have to make there, and then get a little bit more at quarterback, get a little bit more at wide receiver. But you could stay down there with Jonnu over on DK, and you could stay there with the Redskins defense. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Unless you have anything on the Charger side to speak about.
Next.
No. I'll say one thing. With Keenan Allen hurt, Mike Williams in a tournament, again, another guy getting a ton of end zone looks. Mm-hmm. That's a guy that always has touchdown upside. Tournament only. I'm okay. Or
Henry too, I suppose. He has been. It's been a small sample, but he is averaging 76 receiving yards per game, which is the most among tight ends. So he's only played a handful of games, averaging 7 targets, 5 grabs. So if Keenan is really banged up and he's not going to play, they fired the offensive coordinator there. So who knows? It's just the offensive line is just not good for me to go, all right, fine. Maybe they hand the ball off to Melvin Gordon 20 times. Maybe that's why they made the change and they're going to change up their offense. Or maybe they are going to go back to Eckler when they're winning football games. Just really don't have a feel. Don't think they have an identity. Don't like the line. Don't love Rivers. Chargers are in a tough spot.
Yeah, I agree. No OC now. No who's calling plays. I have no idea.
What's going on? No, they don't.
I don't know. Speaking of things in flux, how about the Broncos now? Brandon Allen's going to be quarterback. So there goes your Cortland Sutton shares. Were all of mine.
Yeah.
Not that Joe Flacco is the greatest, but anybody's, come on now. Joe Flacco is better than Brandon Allen. But here we go. So I'm out with all the Broncos. I'm worried about them terribly.
Mm-hmm.
That they can't
dialing up Cleveland. Are you going to win in spots maybe you don't play Washington? Yeah.
This is your chance. Here you go. This is your Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, Nick Chubb trio stack, if you are believing. I'm telling you right now. And I am. I do think the Browns are going to have a good second half. I've made fun of them all for the first half. And in the second half, the schedule, Bengals twice, Steelers twice, Dolphins. They got a lot to play here. And this is one of the first cookie games they're going to have. Again, it's a tournament play. This is not a cash game play. There's no way, shape, or form. But Nick Chubb, especially on DK, that's the other, you can do Stafford, Chubb, Aaron Jones, Galladay, Robinson, Amendola, and just you can figure out the rest from there.
And I feel like you've called this for Cleveland. I feel like you've been saying it all year. When we did the preview shows here, you talked about the Browns starting off with that schedule, and there's so much hype. It's going to take some time for Baker and Odell. And
I said they would just miss the playoffs again.
Yeah, you did. You called it all. You said they would start off like this, and I was in agreement. I agreed with you totally. I mean, the schedule was tough, and it does get a lot easier here in the second half. So maybe they can turn things up. But I really like Chubb. I think you can forget about the fumbles last week and playing the Pats.
You throw that out the window.
You throw it out the window. 20 carries in back-to-back games, at least 20 carries in 4 of his last 5, 253 rushing yards in his last 2 games, and averaging over 100 on the season. This guy has been really good for as bad as Cleveland has been, and Baker Mayfield and the offensive line and all the turnovers and Odell missing and Jarvis Landry, where is he? Like, Chubb has been the one constant in this offense. He's been great. And on top of that, 3 catches in 5 of his last 7 games. I love Nick Chubb this week. And I wonder if people are just going to shy away because of the fact that it is the Browns and everything that's going on with them, and the fact that he did fumble a couple times last week too. So love Chubb.
Well, here's the thing. You've got a spot where the Broncos probably are going to have trouble. Maybe they turn the ball over, maybe they don't. But you've got to imagine they're going to have trouble getting a lot of first downs. So at the very least in this game, no matter what you think of the Broncos defense, they're probably going to be on the field too much. And by the second half of this game, they're going to make some mistakes. And you got to think that even though Baker Mayfield's been mistake-laden all year, that he can do enough in this game because he's hitting the lowest ownership you're going to get all year, probably the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Of Baker Mayfield, right? And it can only go up after the 49ers he just played the 2 best defenses in the league back-to-back weeks. Okay? Yeah. So, I mean, can we give the guy a break here? I mean, I know he's a bit of a pain in the ass. I get it.
But, and he's feeling it too. He's ticked off. He's not liking any questions from the reporters. So he should be. I like to see that as well. Yeah.
I think I think he plays better angry. I do. I think you go out there, you get him all riled up, and I think he's going to take it on the Broncos. So I want nothing to do with the Broncos, but I will say this. This is a week to get in at one Browns. Not heavy, but to have a tournament lineup that's got Mayfield, Odell, Chubb, just go with the stack. Now make sure that, Odell, as we get to the weekend, is healthy enough. He's had some injury issues this week, some limited practice stuff. So keep an eye on that, as with all the other things in terms of injuries. But certainly we've given you enough knowledge here to go out there and kick some butt. But we're not done yet, because it's that time again to find the end zone. And it's time for me and Chris Meaney. We were pretty good last week yet again. So we're going to each pick a running back and a wide receiver. And if you retweet or like this segment, or both probably, over on the Twitter machine, we are going to get you some LineStar swag. One of us is going to play for somebody, and whoever gets the most touchdowns wins free stuff. And everybody loves free stuff, especially Halloween. Trick or treat, baby. Free stuff. Yeah, everybody likes it. So I'm going to start this week. I'll start with running back. I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. Speaking of those Browns we were talking about, it's time for the Browns to make their little second half run, just like last year. Not enough on offense for the Broncos to keep moving the chains, enough to keep the Browns off the field. Nick Chubb is going to eat. Nick Chubb is going to score. Nick Chubb is going to be a very useful DFS running back this week. So who is your running back finding the end zone, Chris Meaney?
Can I pick Chubb too? Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, let's all turn our keys on Nick Chubb. How's that?
Yeah, Nick Chubb, get him in your lineup this week.
There was a time, by the way, in the baseball show this year where and Nitro all picked Freddie Freeman, and he hit 3 home runs that night.
That's right. So Nick Chubb is definitely going to find the end zone 3 times. Get him in there. I'll go to Lev Bell. I know he's been pretty frustrating.
It's always good when you and I are on the same guy. That usually means we're talking
absolutely. And I think the people listening to this show are nodding right now. Yep. That's been the case. I'll go to Lev Bell. I mean, 8 carries last week was a disgrace. Playing against Miami, this is like, listen, this defense is absolutely brutal. 31st against the run, allowing a 3rd most fantasy points to backs, the 2nd most rushing yards allowed. So I'll go to Lev Bell. Adam Gase, I know you didn't want to pay that guy. You wanted to trade him last week or this past week. Doesn't matter. You have him, use him.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, well, I'll let you have the board first for wide receiver, because I'm a magnanimous fellow. Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to go to DK Metcalf. DraftKings Metcalf, as my boy Pat Mayo likes to call him. You mentioned earlier he's leading the league in end zone targets. I know he's just coming off a game where he had 2 touchdowns, but I think there'll be some points scored in this game from Seattle's standpoint. Tough matchup for Chris Carson. Give me Metcalf.
I think that's a real good one. I really do. I'm going to go with Allen Robinson there.
Nice.
Against those Eagles. Allen Robinson gets back into the touchdown ways. You got to love that. He had a good run there for a little while. I think he picks it back up this week. I don't think a lot of Trubisky, but I do think a lot of Robinson. And in terms of consistency, when you look at the game log, it's been there. The targets are always usually 7+. You got to love that. And you got to love the matchup against the Eagles. So there you have it. Those are our 4 guys. Make sure you retweet, like this segment, and share it around. And while you're at it, go subscribe to the PreSnap right here on the LineStar app. Anywhere you can listen to podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. I don't know. There's a million of these damn things nowadays because everybody's got a podcast. Even I've got many. So look, go out there, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review while you're at it, because we're fun and we win you money. And I honestly don't know what more you need out of life. So that'll do it for us. In the meantime, you can follow us on the Twitter machine at Joe Pisapia 17, at Chris Meaney, at LineStar App, and at LineStar NFL. The pre-snap is done. It's time to break the huddle and sit down.
You've been listening to the Pre-Snap Podcast, brought to you by LineStar. Hit subscribe, tell a friend, and stay tuned for the next episode from fantasy football experts Joe Pisapia and Chris Meaney.